Welcome, patrons. Okay, so the Logain video is finally out and we can actually get to discuss the surprising trailer for a Netflix animated show for Dragon Age? Okay. Alright, here we go. Quick thoughts that are not actually quick, but whatever. So like many of you, I was a bit surprised to see this coming up, but what I think I might have been more surprised by was that this was actually leaked over a year ago. I think we just collectively forgot about this, and when this hit the internet, I was actually on a very long road trip to see my parents for my daughter's first birthday, so, nothing to make you forget about Dragon Age rumors like a baby throwing up in your car. But yeah, as you might know, I love to review Dragon Age media tie-ins, so I feel like I have the proper authority to say I'm a bit hesitant. See, we haven't really had the best track record for tie-in media that isn't books or comics. Further from what we know about the creation of tie-in media, so far the only lore-important media is done by BioWare writers themselves. And as we now know that the BioWare writers have nothing to do with this series, it's likely the show will have very little importance to the world as we know it, unless this becomes like the next Stranger Things, which, no offense to the show, even if it is good, there's no way this is going to be the next Stranger Things. Now, I've seen critiques about the animation style as well, and honestly, I'm not, totally in love with it either, but it's not bad. It's just, it is, whatever. If anything, I think people need to read the room a bit when it comes to adult animation in the West. Right now, pretty much all animation that is aimed towards adult and has, a more serious tone looks like this. For Western audiences, at least. Or, like Family Guy, but those are more comedic. While there are exceptions, those usually come in the form of artistic shorts, not long-running series. So what I'm saying is, I think this style is a choice, and it's supposed to be a safe one. From the rumors that came out about a year ago, Netflix wants this to work, and I think that's what this style is telling us. As for complaints about this not looking like Dragon Age, I think my main complaint about that is that Dragon Age doesn't really have a look. Sure, there are symbols we all recognize, but literally every game looks different from one another. Even if the animation was to choose one game and base it on that, the things we read and recognize as Dragon Age would be kinda hard to pull off in animation due to the change from 2D to 3D. Frankly, if they wanted to make this more like Dragon Age, they should have added more of those symbols that we do assign to the world of Thetis, which then brings up the question, why didn't include any? I think the only thing that we recognize is this Venatori guy and Andraste, and, the eyes on the spirit thing, and, that's it. What I honestly think is that while this is set in Thetis, so far everything we have seen and even been told puts this as other, something that is separate from the games and the rest of the series and more like a side story to draw in a larger audience. It would not surprise me if we get to the end credits of Dragon Age Dreadwolf and literally nothing of the show popped up in the game. If I want to be a little degrading about it, and I know, but whatever, I think this is going to be Dragon Age for normies. I kind of hate that word, but it gets the point across. This is the show you put on for your new boyfriend to ease him into the fact that you have a Cullen shrine in your closet. Us diehard fans will watch it, and many of us might even like it, but I wouldn't expect anything earth-shattering to the lore to be in here. Hopefully the writers nail what is at the heart of this series, the relationships, and this ends up still feeling like a proper entry to the series due to its compassion and not how many Thetis buzzwords they use. But that's just my guess, and I'll let time prove me wrong. Anyway, with all that out of the way, let's actually pull out our magnifying glass and put some pieces together. Trailer breakdown. So I'm pretty late in the game for this video to come out, so sorry, but I'm not going to bore you with a screen-by-screen play of the trailer, but instead I kind of want to do two things. First is to collect images from the trailer to assume a few things, and the second is to bring up a few things that I personally noticed. Characters. Some of you might not know this, but there's actually an art to cutting a trailer together, and using some of that basic knowledge, we can assume a few things about the people we see in the trailer. For starters, the first person we see is the villain, and we know what he's after. The warrior woman also appears to be working for him and will probably be his hired muscle. Now, to me, they also look somewhat similar, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were related, like a brother-sister sort of thing. The next person we meet is the Elven Rogue, who is the only voice character in the trailer, which on the voice, that really does sound like Ashley Johnson to me, but it could be anybody. I don't have a great ear. Anyway, this character seems to show some connection to the villain, probably some old baggage given another scene, and for the most part this character is never shown next to the other companions. From that, I'm assuming that a large part of this series will be the elf coming and connecting to their new companions and opening up about whatever's bothering them. Next, let's talk about the companions. Now, the Qunari mage is the most prominent character, so I bet she plays a large role in the elf's life somehow. Perhaps, like, she's a friend starting out, or these two will grow closer romantically, or something like that. The others are shown briefly. We have a black human warrior, a brown dwarven man, who I think is a warrior, but it's kind of up in the air, and Scarman, who is also a rogue. And there's the other mage girl, who will probably be the one to techno-babble at us when people don't know what magical stuff is going on. There's also one other magical figure that is suspiciously eyed like a pride demon, and in another scene it almost looks like the villain has summoned this guy with the magical object. Now, who or what the spirit is, I have no idea, but I will say the soul senses are tingling, but I just kind of get the sense that it looks like it's related, but it's not. I don't know. Scenes. Okay, so let's remix this trailer and group up a bunch of scenes that seem to be in the same area. So starting with the tomb, the architecture in the backs looks very Dwarven to me, but like there's this dragon hanging by chains. Although this, I guess, wouldn't be the first time Dwarven ruins were repurposed to be something Elven or Tevinter. So our two villains are standing in front of the pride spirit thing, and our magically important MacGuffin is floating behind them. Now, I think the villains summoned this thing, but I don't know why the item isn't involved in the process, or why the spirit should be summoned in the first place. Next is the ruins where our main heroes fight a Tevinter soldier, probably Venatori by the looks of it. I've seen people say that this is the tower in the back from the city earlier, and I'm kind of 50-50 on that being true. Mainly because the fighting seems to show rubble, and the city pan seems pretty clean. Now, however, given an explosion later in the trailer, it could be that this city shot happens before the fight. Now, speaking of that explosion, it's the same color and happens right after the other mage girl lets off the spell. So if you look closely at the pillar behind her, she seems to be in the chamber where the spirit thing is called, which would then mean that the chamber lies within the city. And I guess there's a confrontation down there. And apparently it was within reason enough to rather explode the whole chamber than let the spirit out, whatever it is. Now, on a hunch, I'm going to make a guess that the main villain is trying to do something with that ring and needs the tower to do it. He enters the tower through those golden doors that we see, and our heroes have to take a back way in, which is what our hero means when they say, "We're in." There also seems to be another chamber where our heroes fight elven zombies and the villain, but there is a chance that this is the same chamber as the one where the spirit is summoned, but set in like the daytime or something, as the coloring is a bit different. Or maybe it's like higher up in the same ruin or something. It kind of has like a similar shape, but different colors. There's also a shot of the Qunari and our hero in a cellar, and then in an alley, and I'm kind of going to assume that this is near the start of the show where we get our quests and the group meets up. Oddities. So the first oddity to me is that despite marketing for the series saying that this is set in Tevinter, all of the establishing shots just doesn't look like Tevinter to me. The first shot at night sort of looks like Navarra or Antiva to me, while the other shot looks like it could be Starkhaven. Or really, if anything, what bothers me the most is that if this is a Tevinter city, why on earth is Andraste there? I honestly cannot believe that this city isn't in the south. So I wonder if the adventure starts outside of Thedas, and perhaps this weird tomb that seems to have dragons in it is in Tevinter. However, that being said, this purple tower seems to be the central plot from what I gather from the trailer, and this tower likely wouldn't be in Southern Thedas either, as it seems a little bit too magical. Well, I mean, if this is actually in Navarra, then that could still be given a chance, because it could be like a small necropolis they venture into, which would also explain the zombies. But honestly, I'm not going to sit here and think too hard about this, because the most likely scenario is that this is a town we haven't heard of. Also, the thing at the beginning is a bird, not a griffin. I know there are a lot of people who were excited to see griffins again, but this isn't it. I'm sorry. The second oddity is the ring. Now, again, I'm linked to the game and everyone's talking about Ouroboroses, and that is not new to Thedas. Now, the most notable usage, I think, being the device that held Merrick in the original Dragon Age comics. Below, an old friend of the show, Erebos, actually collected every usage of an Ouroboros in Dragon Age in a Reddit thread, and I think she does a way better job than I could, so I'm just going to link down to that. But one thing that I find interesting that no one is really talking about, this isn't technically an Ouroboros. See, a real Ouroboros is a symbol of eternity because a snake could never fully devour itself. It's going to be eating forever. But two snakes could battle it out and fully eat one another. One could win. In my extensive Google search, two different usages of the double Ouroboros came up that I would like to discuss. The first historical, and the second pop culture. The historical reference is that of the Norse god Loki, who was often represented by two intertwining snakes that bit the tail of the other. I get messages almost every day by people comparing Solus to Loki, so I found the comparison to be interesting. However, the symbol doesn't much look like the one in the show, and that being said, I also don't think Solus and snakes are connected. If anything, I would say that they would have been if there was a wolf involved in the snake ring, but it just isn't. So, who knows? Now, the second is a pop culture reference that while I would normally toss out, the reference is old enough and widespread enough to be plausible. Now, because I have never read or watched this piece of media, I'm going to just read the wiki article that I read. So, from a Wiki Alpha article, which I'm actually not sure what Wiki Alpha is, but Googling it seems to be true, so I'm just going to take it at its word. This is the entry for the Aurin amulet from the Neverending Story. Two mythological serpents, symmetrical, bite at the other's tail. In the film, these form a Celtic knot, whereas in the book, they form an oval. One serpent is white and one is black. Each has an eye to correspond to the color of the book's print, red and green. The two snakes represent the dual nature of the two worlds, Fantastica and reality, but also the twin nature of their mutual creation and destruction. If you reword that last part with the Fade instead of Fantastica, it could practically be part of Dragon Age lore. So for the moment, I'm thinking that perhaps the magical ring is some sort of Tevinter artifact that has something to do with balance about the veil. I guess. Despite this being an interesting homage, perhaps, to the Neverending Story, I don't really know how to interpret this as to what it would be for the show. But, yeah, as for the name Absolution, there is a weapon in Dragon Age 2 that talks about assassins in the Anderfels, and while this may be related, I'm not actually sure that it is at the moment, although this city being the Anderfels makes way more sense to me than Tevinter, honestly. And that, dear patrons, is all that I have on a new trailer for Dragon Age Absolution. Now, going forward, I don't know, should I be doing a video on each trailer? I guess I'm torn because in the big scheme of things, this will likely be a very small blip in the Dragon Age lore train, but maybe you will all find it interesting. And yes, when it finally comes out in December, I'll do a video on the whole show, so don't even ask. Do you still have lingering questions, proof that I'm wrong, comments about your own fan theory? Feel free to tweet me at Gildathon on Twitter or send a PM to user Gillanon on Reddit. The rest, you're all.